Welcome, listeners. This time, we'll be boldly going where many have gone before, into the hilarious and thought-provoking world of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We'll be focusing on the film adaptation of Douglas Adams's classic.
Oh, a fantastic choice. The film really captures the spirit of the book, doesn't it? That unique blend of sci-fi, humor, and philosophical pondering.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot to unpack, from Earth's sudden and rather absurd destruction to make way for a hyperspace bypass.
Yeah, oh yes, classic bureaucratic absurdity.
Exactly. We'll also delve into Arthur Dent's unexpected journey through space, clinging to his trusty towel alongside his alien friend, Ford Prefect.
The towel, of course, is essential. Don't leave Earth without it.
Wise advice. And how can we forget the iconic search for the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? And that infamous answer, 42. What does it all mean? We might not have the ultimate question, but
Well, we can certainly have fun exploring the possibilities.
we'll also encounter the wonderfully weird Zaphod Beeblebrox, the two-headed, three-armed galactic president.
A true embodiment of the film's satirical take on leadership.
And finally, we'll touch on the importance of friendship and human connection when faced with the vastness and, let's be honest, the often absurd nature of space.
It's a wild ride, and I think our listeners are going to love it.
So buckle up, everyone, and prepare for a deep dive into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And speaking of absurd, let's start with the destruction of Earth, demolished for a bypass. It hardly seems fair, does it?
Well, it certainly sets the tone for the film's satirical commentary on bureaucracy and the often arbitrary nature of power, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. These Vogons, they just come in, read their destruction order with all the emotion of a toaster, and boom, planet gone. It's almost comical how casually they go about it.
Precisely. It highlights the potential consequences of unchecked power and blind adherence to rules and regulations. The film really makes you question those systems we often take for granted.
And in the midst of all this, we have Arthur Dent, your average guy, standing there in his bathrobe, completely oblivious to the fact that his planet's about to be turned into a cosmic parking lot.
Well, who could blame him? It's not exactly an everyday occurrence, is it? Poor Arthur. His initial reaction is so human denial, disbelief, then, well, panic sets in, wouldn't you say?
That's that what's going on moment we can all relate to.
Exactly. It's only when those Vogon constructor ships loom overhead that the reality of the situation hits him. Talk about a bad day.
And just when all hope seems lost, in steps Ford Prefect, revealing his true identity as an alien researcher who's been stranded on Earth for, 15 years?
Something like that. And thank goodness he was there, because he whisks Arthur away from impending doom just in the nick of time. A rather dramatic start to a beautiful friendship.
I'd say. And of course, Ford introduces Arthur to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, their essential handbook for navigating the absurdities of space.
Don't forget your towel, folks. Couldn't agree more. The guide says it's the most useful thing a hitchhiker can carry, and I can see why.
Absolutely. You never know when you'll need to dry off after an intergalactic mishap or signal for help on a desolate planet. And this brings us to the Heart of Gold, their spaceship. It's powered by the infinite improbability drive, which is...
Well, let's just say it adds a whole new dimension to space travel. Think about it. A ship that can travel anywhere in the universe by changing its probability. The possibilities are literally endless.
It really stretches the imagination, which is fitting, considering the crew. And who better to embody that spirit of infinite possibility than Zaphod Beeblebrox, our two-headed, three-armed galactic president?
Yes, Zaphod. A walking contradiction. Impulsive, reckless, but somehow incredibly charming. And let's not forget those extra appendages.
A bit of an overachiever, wouldn't you say? But under that flamboyant exterior, there's a certain charisma that you just can't resist. He's like the ultimate cosmic party crasher.
And his antics really make you think about the nature of leadership, don't they? I mean, is he really in control, or is he just along for the ride?
Excellent question. And it's during one of Zaphod's rather chaotic escapades that they stumble upon deep thought, a supercomputer designed to calculate the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
7.5 million years of calculations, and what's the answer?
42. It's a classic moment.
And yet it leaves us with more questions than answers. I mean, if 42 is the answer, what's the question?
That's the real head-scratcher, isn't it? And this is where the film really gets us thinking. What is the meaning of life? Is there one definitive answer? Or is it up to each of us to find our own meaning?
Perhaps that's the point. The journey itself, the search for meaning, is more important than the destination. Would you agree?
I would. And The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy does a brilliant job of reminding us that sometimes the most profound truths are found in the most unexpected places. And that's just the beginning of our deep dive. We've got plenty more to uncover as we explore the brilliance of this film and the enduring legacy of Douglas Adams. So stay tuned, listeners.
Welcome back, Space Cadets. Ready to continue our deep dive into the galaxy of the Hitchhiker's Guide.
You bet. Last we left off, we were grappling with that elusive number 42, the supposed answer to life, the universe, and everything. Still boggles the mind, really.
It does, doesn't it? It's such a brilliant example of Adams's use of satire, to make us think about these big philosophical questions, but in a way that's still funny and engaging. But maybe we should move on from the meaning of everything, for now at least, and talk about something a bit more, well, concrete.
Sure. What do you have in mind?
How about those Vogons? Their love of bureaucracy. Remember that scene, the one where Arthur and Ford are stuck on their spaceship and forced to listen to Vogon poetry?
Ugh, don't remind me. It's like having your brain slowly drizzled with, well, I don't even know what, painfully awful stuff.
Right. But it's so clever the way Adams uses humor to make a point about how stifling and mind-numbing bureaucracy can be. The Vogons are so obsessed with rules and regulations that they completely lose sight of, well, everything else, common sense, compassion, you name it.
Yeah, they just blindly follow orders, even when those orders involved destroying entire planets to make way for, what was it, a hyperspace bypass?
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, this planet's in the way. Time to blow it up. No big deal. It's terrifying and hilarious all at the same time.
It really makes you appreciate the beauty of a little bit of chaos, doesn't it? Speaking of which, we can't forget about our favorite two-headed galactic president, Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Zaphod. The embodiment of chaos, wrapped in a charming and slightly clueless package. But he makes you think about leadership, right? All that style and swagger. But does he actually have a plan?
Hard to say. He's always off on some crazy adventure, stealing spaceships, searching for the ruler of the universe. It's like he's making it up as he goes along, but it's entertaining, you have to admit.
Oh, absolutely. But his character raises some interesting questions, about what we value in our leaders. Are we too easily swayed by charisma and appearances?
That's a good point. Maybe we all need to be a little more like Arthur, a bit skeptical, but still open to the possibilities, right?
Perhaps. After all, he does end up hitching a ride across the galaxy, and let's not forget that whole search for the meaning of life.
Right, that whole 32 business. Do you think Adams was trying to tell us that there is no one answer, that it's all just a big cosmic joke?
It's hard to say. But I think the film does a great job of showing us that the journey, the search itself, is just as important as finding the answer.
It's like that old saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Exactly. And sometimes the most meaningful moments come from embracing the unknown, from those unexpected encounters and experiences that you just can't plan for.
Like meeting a hitchhiker from another planet, or discovering that your best friend is an alien researcher.
Or finding yourself on a stolen spaceship heading to who knows where. It's about being open to the possibilities, even when those possibilities seem a bit, well, absurd.
And that brings us to another important theme. I think, this idea of connection, even in this vast, crazy universe, human connection, it seems to be a kind of anchor, right?
Absolutely. Look at Arthur and Ford, for example. They're from completely different worlds, but they form this bond, this friendship that helps them navigate the chaos, provides some sense of normalcy.
And it's not just them. Think about Marvin, the perpetually depressed robot. He's always complaining, moaning about the pointlessness of it all. But
underneath all that doom and gloom, he seems to crave connection, too.
Right. Like deep down, even a robot with a brain the size of a planet just wants to feel understood. It's kind of sweet in a melancholic kind of way.
It is, isn't it? And it shows that we all need connection, even in the most absurd and unpredictable of circumstances. It's kind of what makes us human, right?
Or alien, as the case may be. So, as we continue our journey through this wacky, wonderful world that Douglas Adams created, I guess the question is, what other unexpected connections and insights are waiting to be discovered?
Welcome back, fellow travelers. As we reach the end of our deep dive into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, let's take a moment to appreciate those quirky characters who make this film so unforgettable.
Absolutely. I mean, where else can you find a two-headed galactic president with a penchant for chaos?
Zaphod Beeblebrox is in a league of his own, isn't he? He embodies that perfect blend of charisma and recklessness that makes you both laugh and cringe at the same time.
He's like a cosmic whirlwind, always stirring things up, never quite sure where he's going, but somehow always ending up in the middle of the action.
And that's what makes him so entertaining. He's completely unpredictable.
It's hard to imagine the film without him.
True. But remember, beneath all that swagger and those grand pronouncements, there's a certain vulnerability to Zaphod.
Yeah, you see it in those moments when he doubts himself, when he realizes that maybe he's not quite as in control as he pretends to be.
Those moments make him relatable, don't they?
They do, and they make us question our own perceptions of leadership. Do we always choose leaders who are truly capable, or are we drawn to those who simply project an image of confidence and power?
Good question. It's something to think about, isn't it? Now, speaking of memorable characters, we can't forget about Marvin the paranoid android.
Oh, Marvin. He's the embodiment of existential angst trapped in a robot's body.
With a brain the size of a planet, don't forget that.
Right. And yet he's perpetually miserable. It's almost as if his vast intelligence makes him acutely aware of the absurdity and pointlessness of it all.
I think that's what makes him so relatable, though. He voices those doubts and fears that we all have but rarely admit to.
We try to put on a brave face, pretend that everything's fine, but deep down, we're all wondering what it all means.
And Marvin, well, he's not afraid to express those existential anxieties.
But he does it with such dry wit that you can't help but laugh. He's like the ultimate cosmic pessimist.
And yet, there's something endearing about him, too. You get the sense that he longs for connection, even though he'd never admit it.
Like when he forms that unlikely bond with Arthur.
Exactly. It shows that even the most cynical and jaded among us still crave a sense of belonging.
And it brings us back to that central theme we've been exploring throughout this deep dive, the importance of connection in a universe that often seems vast and indifferent.
Whether it's the friendship between Arthur and Ford, or the unexpected connection between Zaphod and Trillian, or even Marvin's grudging affection for Arthur, these relationships provide a sense of grounding, a reminder that we're not alone in this crazy cosmos.
And I think that's one of the most enduring messages of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Amidst all the absurdity and chaos, there's still hope. Hope in the power of connection, hope in the resilience of the human spirit, hope in the possibility of finding meaning, even if that meaning is as elusive and unexpected as the number 42.
It's a message that resonates, doesn't it?
It does. And it leaves us with a sense of wonder and a desire to keep exploring, to keep asking those big questions, to keep searching for those moments of connection that make life worth living.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let me leave you with a few parting thoughts. Don't panic. Remember your towel. And never stop exploring the vast and wondrous universe that Douglas Adams created.
Who knows what incredible adventures await you out there?
Thanks for joining us on this journey through The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Until next time, keep those towels handy, and remember, the answer might just be 42.